Welcome to the Human 5.0 Project, the podcast where we cut straight to the breakthroughs that matter, the show where science meets self-optimization. I'm your host, Ultimate Biohacker 10X, and here we break down the real research, real data, and real dosing behind modern biohacking, from compounds and peptides to techniques, devices, lifestyle strategies, and performance protocols. Most people jump in and jump out before they get the gold, so we're keeping it tight and delivering the essential insights you need without the fluff. If you've taken the time to hit play, we'll make sure you walk away with valuable knowledge that can transform your approach to longevity, health optimization, and beyond.
Cold exposure isn't about suffering. It's not a masculinity contest, and it's not ice bath clout. Cold is a stimulus, a metabolic wake-up call. And the real story is what happens under the hood, inside your cells, when your body is forced to adapt. Tonight we're locking into one thing, AMPK, your body's internal low fuel switch that changes what you burn, what you store, and what you repair. Now I know it can be daunting to assimilate all of the biological acronyms, AMP, ADP, ATP, DNA, RNA, mRNA, NADH, FADH2, CAMP, GTP. There are more than the U.S. governmental agencies, but some are super important to understand in a basic sense, just for the purposes of health optimization, so you can understand why someone like myself would recommend a certain protocol. No PhD, no fluff. Let's build this. Hey team, this is Ultimate Biohacker 10X on the mic again for the Human 5.0 Project. This is for educational purposes only and not medical advice. If you've got uncontrolled blood pressure, arrhythmia, seizure history, pregnancy, Raynaud's, cold urticaria, or you faint easily, cold exposure is clinician territory. And rule 0, don't do dumb things alone in water. You can optimize without risking your life. Cool? Now let's talk biology. Here's AMPK in plain English. AMPK is your cell's fuel gauge. Not a supplement, not a trend, a built-in system that you already have. Think of every cell like a city. It runs on ATP, and that's energy currency. And we covered that before. That's what keeps the lights on. When the city has plenty of ATP, everything's smooth. You build new stuff, you store extra, you run expensive projects, and you grow. But when ATP drops, when energy is low, another molecule rises, AMP. And AMP is basically the uh-oh light. AMPK turns on when AMP rises. That's literally what the name means, AMP-activated protein kinase. Now, here's the part everyone needs to understand. 1. AMPK makes energy available fast. AMPK says we need fuel now, so it pushes the cell to pull glucose in faster, burn fatty acids more, increase energy-producing pathways. Translation: AMPK helps you access and use fuel when you're running low. 2. AMPK shuts down energy-wasting projects. When energy is low, AMPK cancels construction. It turns down fat-building signals, cholesterol and triglyceride-building signals, other high-energy growth projects, and this is context-dependent. Translation: AMPK shifts you from store and build mode into use and repair mode. Clean analogy: AMPK is like your phone going into low power mode. It shuts off background apps, dims the screen, preserves battery, prioritizes survival tasks. That's AMPK. One-line summary: AMPK turns on when energy is low. It helps you use fuel and stop wasting energy. Now the question becomes, what kinds of stress flip that switch? AMPK is activated by energy stress, anything that makes energy demand rise relative to supply. Common triggers people talk about: exercise, especially sustained glycogen-draining work, fasting in low glycogen states, calorie restriction signals, metabolic stressors that increase demand, and yes, cold exposure depending on intensity and context. But let's be precise here. Cold doesn't magically burn fat. Cold increases energy demand because you must maintain temperature. So cold becomes a demand signal. Produce heat, spend ATP, increase fuel usage, and adapt. and multiple pathways involved in cold adaptation can converge on metabolic signaling that includes AMPK. Translation: cold's not magic, it's a demand. AMPK is one of the ways cells respond to demand. Also, quick line for clarity. AMPK activation does not equal instant weight loss. AMPK equals fuel management and efficiency. Weight change is downstream if the rest of life supports it. Let's talk about what AMPK activation tends to push your body towards. A. Better fuel partitioning. AMPK encourages fuel usage, better glucose uptake in the muscle, more fat oxidation in the right context. Translation: you get better at using energy instead of defaulting to storage. B. A nudge toward cleanup mode. When energy is tight, the body prioritizes efficiency. AMPK connects to pathways involved in cell maintenance and resource conservation. This is why AMPK gets name-dropped in longevity circles, not because it's a miracle, but because it's a real lever tied to how cells behave under stress. C. It pushes back against always-on growth mode. Your body cannot be in 24/7 growth mode and stay metabolically flexible. If your whole life is always fed, always warm, always sedentary, always comfortable, you're training your biology to be storage first. AMPK is one of the signals that pulls you back toward flexibility. Translation: AMPK helps restore metabolic adaptability, but only if your lifestyle gives it a reason. Now, cold as a tool and not a religion. Cold thermogenesis is simply your body generating heat when it's cold. This is accomplished in two major ways: shivering thermogenesis, where the muscle activity generates heat, and non-shivering thermogenesis. Metabolism ramps heat production, and it's often discussed alongside brown fat. Cold exposure can increase sympathetic drive, heat production, fuel usage, and adaptation signals over time. All right, now, quick brown fat clarity, because the internet makes this weird. Brown fat is basically heater tissue. It's rich in mitochondria and can help produce heat by burning fuel. Some people respond strongly, some barely respond. It varies with genetics, conditioning, age, baseline body composition, and environment. So the line you're not hearing enough is this: cold is a tool, not a substitute. If you're cold plunging, but sleep is wrecked, training is random, diet is chaotic, alcohol is constant, and stress is nuclear, your outcomes will be inconsistent. Cold is an amplifier, not a foundation. All right, team. Quick clarification, because this is where people get twisted. You'll hear me say AMPK is the low fuel switch, and you'll hear people say AMPK conserves energy. And then they think, wait, conserving energy sounds like slowing down. How is that good for longevity? Here's the truth. Longevity isn't about running your body at full speed 24/7. Longevity is about staying functional, low damage, and resilient for decades. So yes, AMPK conserves energy, but it conserves energy for the right reasons. The clean concept? AMPK puts the cell into maintenance mode. When AMPK turns on, your cell reads the message as energy is tight, stop wasting resources, protect the system. So it does two important things at the same time. It increases fuel access and efficiency. AMPK says we need usable energy now, so it pushes better glucose uptake in muscle, more fat oxidation in the right context, improved metabolic flexibility, meaning you can switch fuels without crashing. It shuts down energy-wasting construction projects. When energy is low, the cell doesn't want to spend ATP building luxury items, so AMPK turns down things like making new fat, making extra cholesterol, some growth pathways depending on context. Translation: AMPK is not anti-energy, it's anti-waste. The longevity win here: AMPK biases you toward repair and cleanup. Now here's why longevity people care. Because when your body is constantly in growth mode, always warm, always fed, always comfortable, you're basically training your biology to store, build, expand, and ignore maintenance. But aging is what happens when damage accumulates, repair slows down, mitochondria get sloppy, and inflammation stays elevated. And the body keeps trying to build while the foundation rots. AMPK is one of the signals that pulls you back towards housekeeping. This is where you hear terms like cellular cleanup, recycling damaged parts, efficiency upgrades. You don't need the jargon, but here's the vibe. AMPK makes your cells act like adults. The best analogy? City budget. Think of each cell like a city. When the city has endless money, it builds nonstop. New buildings, new projects, constant expansion. But when budgets get tight, a smart city does something different. It fixes bridges, repairs water pipes, cleans up trash, upgrades infrastructure, and cuts waste. That's AMPK. It shifts the cell from build and store to repair and optimize. Over a lifetime, that matters. Key warning, you want AMPK like training, not like starvation. And this is critical. We're not trying to keep AMPK on forever, because chronic AMPK activation can also mean you're underfed, overtrained, sleep-deprived, stressed out, inflamed, or sick. That's not longevity, that's just survival mode. So the goal is pulses. Exercise pulses it, fasting windows pulse it, cold exposure can pulse it, then you recover, rebuild, and adapt. One-line summary you can steal from this episode: AMPK is good for longevity when it's a signal you train, not a stress you live in. All right, now that you understand the why, let's bring it back to cold, because cold is a clean, controllable way to create that energy demand signal, and when you dose it like an adult, it can train metabolic flexibility without wrecking recovery. And let's make this actionable without turning it into a stunt. Protocol A, cold shower entry. Start here. End your shower with cool to cold water. Start with 15 to 30 seconds and build towards 60 to 120 seconds. Breathe slow, stay calm. You're training control, not panic. What's your goal? Consistency and tolerance. Protocol B, cold exposure walk. If it's safe and appropriate, light clothing exposure in cool air. Short duration, no hero mode. What's the goal? Gentle thermogenic demand without shock. Protocol C, ice bath or cold plunge. If you do this, don't do it alone. Don't do it after heavy alcohol. Don't do it if you've had fainting issues. Don't push intensity for ego. Start mild. Consistency beats extremes. The real protocol is choose a dose you can repeat. Make it boring and track outcomes. How do you know if it's working and when to stop? Measurement is way more important than vibes. You've heard me say this over and over again. So if you're doing this for metabolic power, track reality. Daily or weekly checks, sleep onset and sleep quality, morning energy, resting heart rate trend, mood, stress tolerance, training performance, appetite stability, body composition trend over weeks. Obviously not day-to-day scale noise. We've said that before too. And a stop rule. Set it before you start. If cold exposure consistently worsens your sleep or anxiety or recovery or your training output, you lower the dose or stop. Because the point isn't cold, the point's just a better system. AMPK is your fuel gauge and your efficiency boss. Cold thermogenesis is one lever that can create demand and drive adaptation, but you don't win by going colder. You win by going consistent. All right, if this helped, share it with someone who thinks suffering equals results, and you can have a laugh with them. Next episode, AMPK activators beyond cold, exercise, fasting, and the real stack. Drop AMPK2 in the comments if you want it, and I'm willing to do it. Stay optimized, stay consistent, stay AMPK strong. This is Ultimate Biohacker 10X, and I'm out. Thanks for listening to the Human 5.0 Project.
If you found value in today's episode, share it with someone who's ready to elevate their biology. Make sure to follow the show for weekly deep dives into peptides, protocols, devices, lifestyle strategies, and the science of high-performance longevity. Until next time, stay curious, stay optimized, and stay 10X.